Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times movies predicted future events.
Wait a minute. Cubs win World Series. Against Miami?
For this list, we'll be looking at films that seem to foreshadow real-world occurrences, either by accident or on purpose. Which movie prediction freaked you out the most? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Traveling to the Moon. A Trip to the Moon. Loosely based on works by Jules Verne, this early silent film from French director Georges Méliès features a group of men who take a ride in a bullet-shaped capsule fired out of a giant cannon. Although humans have imagined traveling to the moon for hundreds of years, this is the first film to depict such a journey, and it was made nearly 70 years before the real event.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
At the time, space travel of any kind was still decades in the future. Although we now know that there are no giant fungi or hostile inhabitants living beneath the lunar surface, we can thank visionaries like Verne and Méliès for helping inspire humanity to reach for the stars.
Tell me when I hit the bottom step, hit the bottom step. I'm on it. Yep. Oh, okay.
Number 9. The first black president, the Man.
I hope we can make this brief, Mr. President.
I see no reason why not. I'll throw you a couple of questions, and you can give me a couple of straight and responsive answers.
You might think that the election of an African American to the highest office in the United States was inevitable, but plenty of people didn't feel that way in the 1970s. Remember, this movie was only a few years removed from the Civil Rights Movement.
Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
Written by Rod Serling, yes, that Rod Serling, The Man revolves around President pro tempore Douglas Dillman, played by James Earl Jones. He's sworn into office after the previous president and Speaker of the House are killed in an accident, and the elderly vice president refuses the job.
I am deeply indebted, Mr. Eden. We'll make it, sir. Somehow, we'll all survive. And the country will survive, too.
Although movies and shows with a black president are common on our screens today, The Man was the first feature-length film to include one. Number 8. Scott Peterson in prison, Demolition Man.
Detective, I am Lieutenant Lenina Huxley. The year's 2032.
The California of this movie is quite different from the one we know. By 2032, everything fun has been banned.
Smoking is not good for you, and has been deemed that anything not good for you is bad, hence illegal. Alcohol, caffeine, contact sports, meat.
But their reality does have one thing in common with ours. Someone named Scott Peterson is in prison. In real life, just before Christmas in 2002, Modesto resident Lacey Peterson disappeared, and her husband Scott soon fell under suspicion. Eventually, he was arrested, and after a highly publicized trial, he was convicted of the murder of Lacey and their unborn son.
The verdict was read.
First degree, yes!
We were just numb.
Peterson was initially given a death sentence, but that was eventually overturned, and he was instead sentenced to life in prison. That means that he'll almost certainly still be locked up in California in 2032. Number 7. Building of the Chunnel, the Tunnel.
When this tunnel is completed, sums of money hitherto wasted on wages of soldiers and munitions of war will be diverted into useful and peaceful channels.
It seems like major human achievements always take a bit longer than idealistic artists think they will. The tunnel revolves around the ambitious goal to build an Atlantic tunnel from England to the US. In the film's universe, the Channel Tunnel between England and France already exists. In fact, one character implies that it was built in a single year.
I wanted you to meet Mr. Richard McAllen, who has a little proposition to put up to you. You know him already as the man who successfully constructed the Channel Tunnel in 1940.
In reality, although engineers had proposed building the tunnel since at least the early 1800s, construction didn't even begin until 1988. The tunnel finally opened for use in 1994, but we have to admire the optimism of these mid-1930s filmmakers.
Today is a great day, perhaps the greatest day in the history of the English-speaking people. The Atlantic Tunnel is an accomplished fact.
Number 6. The Batman vs. Superman poster, I Am Legend. We really hope that this prediction is the only one in this movie that comes true.
Let's go, Sam!
No, let's go! After genetically manipulated virus wipes out nearly every human on Earth starting in 2009, major cities like New York are left almost completely abandoned. Scientist Robert Neville remains behind in Manhattan, surviving and trying to cure the infected humans left alive, who have basically turned into vampires. During one scene in Times Square, we see a clear shot of a movie advertisement featuring the bat symbol overlaid with Superman's S. The image actually bears an uncanny resemblance to real promo posters for 2016's Batman vs. Superman. That production detail is pretty prescient considering the DCEU wasn't a thing when this movie came out.
Let's go, Sam. Come on.
Number 5. Decline of U.S. oil production, rise of China, and more. Americathon.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first minute of the first day of the first Americathon, with the greatest array of talent ever assembled all on one stage.
It's a little spooky how many things this critically panned comedy got right. Set in 1998, the US has completely run out of gas and people wear tracksuits all the time because they have to jog and bike everywhere. The country is in tremendous debt while China has pivoted from communism to capitalism and become one of the most powerful nations in the world.
They also had become total capitalists, opening a chain of fast food restaurants. The big seller was a Mao Zedong on rye.
Any of these things sound familiar? Although America has never actually run out of oil, production did drop steadily from the mid-80s to the late 2000s, and the national debt has been spiking since about 1982.
We want to hold a raffle. A raffle?
McMurkin, this country is flat broke.
Really?
Not a pot to piss in, pal.
Vince, please, let's move past it, okay?
And of course, tracksuits were all the rage around that time, partly thanks to the influence of hip-hop music videos. Number 4. Cubs win the World Series. Back to the Future Part 2.
I said I wish I could go back to the beginning of the season. Put some money on the Cubbies.
The filmmakers almost nailed this one. The Cubbies had a really good chance at the World Series in 2015.
The Cubs win! The Chicago Cubs are heading to the National League Championship Series.
They made it to the National League Championship Series where they lost 4-0 to the Mets. Just 1 year later, of course, they took home the pennant and went on to beat Cleveland for the national title in a 7-game shootout.
The Cubs win the World Series! Brian makes the play! It's over! And the Cubs have finally won it all!
The win ended a historic dry spell as Chicago hadn't won a World Series since 1908 and didn't even make the playoffs from 1945 to 1984. You might have noticed that Marty is even more surprised that they were playing against Miami. That's because Miami didn't have a major league team until 1993. Number 3. Tokyo Olympics. Akira.
A skirmish has broken out between student protesters and riot police. There appear to be some casualties. Next.
This beloved anime classic takes place in a dystopian future 2019. After the destruction of Tokyo in 1988, Neo Tokyo is preparing to host the 2020 Olympics. In a shot seen early in the film, a sign displays a countdown to the start of the games, and beneath it, someone has graffitied the words, "Just cancel it." In real life, Tokyo was chosen to host the 2020 Summer Olympics, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many people, including plenty of people in Japan, argued that it should be canceled. Instead, the Tokyo Organizing Committee decided to postpone the event for 1 year, and the competitions eventually took place in 2021 with no spectators in the stands. Number 2. Pandemic. Contagion. As soon as COVID-19 began to spread around the globe, people were drawing comparisons between our real-life pandemic and this film.
People can be contagious without even having symptoms. We need to know that too. And we need to know how big the population of people susceptible to the virus might be.
The virus in Contagion started in China, was initially carried by a bat, and is transmitted mainly through respiratory droplets. But the similarities don't end there. The human behavior that accompanies the illness is also eerily prescient. People head to the grocery store to stock up on essentials. A fraudster peddles a fake treatment that doesn't actually work, and some express skepticism of the CDC.
Dr. Cheever is being a bit disingenuous when he says every American citizen.
We're working very hard to find out where this virus came from, to treat it, and to vaccinate against it if we can.
Ultimately, the fast-track development of a vaccine enables people to return to some semblance of a normal life. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Brandon Lee's death. Game of Death. The coincidences here are almost too many to count. Bruce Lee plays Billy, an actor and the target of an organized crime syndicate. On Billy's movie set, an assassin posing as a stuntman swaps a blank round in his prop gun for a real bullet and shoots Billy but doesn't actually kill him. Instead, Billy fakes his death and returns to get revenge on the gang. In a tragic twist of fate, Lee's son Brandon Lee was accidentally killed while filming The Crow when a prop assistant loaded a gun with blanks, not knowing there was a dummy bullet already lodged in the barrel.
You're all going to die.
The Crow also revolves around Brandon Lee's character returning from the dead and seeking revenge on the members of a crime syndicate.